Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're going to have such a great conversation because there are so many people out there who think, I've got the next greatest idea. I want to be my own boss. I want to start my own company, but they have no idea what to do. They're just totally clueless. And so what happens is they either don't do it at all, or they do it, excuse me, and don't do it right. So please join me in welcoming Frederick Cary to our program today. Welcome, Frederick. How are you doing?
I am great, and I'm really happy to be here. So glad to spend the next hour or so with you.
Perfect. I love it. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we'll jump in. So Frederick Cary, a powerhouse entrepreneur and CEO of IdeaPros, is a company that guides qualified entrepreneurs through the complexities and pitfalls of the startup world. With his entrepreneurial spirit, Fred started many businesses in different industries, created many successes, and acquired thousands of lessons along the way. His desire to give back to a community of like-minded eccentrics led him to create IdeaPros, the world's first super venture partner, a company that could roll up its very experienced sleeves and provide every entrepreneur with the opportunity to see their vision become a real company with a real product. He also produces a weekly show for the entrepreneurs that has been viewed by over 4 million people. So again, Fred, welcome to the program.
Well, thank you again. I feel like my mom must have wrote that.
I know. We all love our bios, right? And now, of course, truth be told, we've run them through Chat GPT.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm going to have to work that part out.
I put mine through and I went, ooh, that's pretty impressive, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, you have such a fabulous career. Tell us how you got to where you are today.
Oh, gosh. This is only an hour, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So.
And you are a litigator. Now, I don't know if you're still practicing or not, but
No, I haven't practiced for years, but I was an attorney for a while, and that was an accident. That'll be the next show. But how do I get to where I am?
Mm-hmm.
I woke up one morning as a teenager and realized that nobody would have me. I felt, at least at 17, that I didn't really fit the mold of what companies would really look for in an employee slash servant, and that I was too independent and too full of ideas to just jump into somebody else's cesspool. And so my inspiration to become an entrepreneur was out of desperation instead of inspiration. It was just, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to adult, I'm going to have to do it on my own and do it myself. And so I ended up, I started my first company at 22 and another 10 companies since then before I started IdeaPros, my current company that helps entrepreneurs launch their own businesses.
I love it. So, you mentioned that you didn't quite fit that mold. Do you find that many entrepreneurs really, that is, if we look at ourselves, we're like, yeah, no, I'm not the go sit at a desk, be told what to do.
Yeah. Look, there are a lot of small business owners that are not entrepreneurs, and there are employees that are entrepreneurs.
Right.
We don't think of it that way, but if you're an employer, folks, look for your entrepreneurial employees.
Right. They're going to be your best resources.
That's right. If you can harness them and use them correctly. But the reality is that some of us just are not cut out for that structure. And that's why some of the best entrepreneurs, when they grow their businesses, you'll see they'll bail out once that company hits
Right.
50 million, 100 million in revenue, because they don't want to be quote unquote the man, and they don't want to be part of that environment.
Right.
Others, like the Elon Musks of the world and Jeff Bezos and the rest of them, stay in it from the long haul, for the long haul. But many, it's a very unique cut of the cloth that will give you that entrepreneurial spirit and desire.
Right. Yeah, it's that challenge of starting something from scratch that so many people find just so invigorating.
Yep, and others find terrifying.
Right, right. You do wonder though if Bezos and Musk think, I'd scrap it all and start over. Yeah.
Well, with Musk, you can actually have the answer.
He does. He kind of does that.
In 2008, and anybody who's interested, you can find, just go to YouTube and look for his interviews from 2008. He had, as most of you know, he had been one of the founders of PayPal. And when PayPal got acquired by eBay, I think he ended up with about $250 million. Which I would have promptly quit. And
I would have taken it and bought an island.
I'd be some little fat dude on the island right now, trying to figure out where to get my next beer. But he instead took his money and started SpaceX and Tesla. And in 2008, near the end of 2008, he had $90 million left of his money. Again, which is enough for you and I to go find our island and go hang. But he had both SpaceX and Tesla in big trouble. 2008, if you guys recall, was the housing crisis. Everything was collapsing. It was impossible to borrow money from anywhere, and it was impossible for him to borrow money as well. And so with his 90 million he had left, he decided he was going to put 45 million in one of those two companies, and the other one was going to have to die. And at the end of the day or the week or the month or however long his thought process went on, he decided these are my babies. These are my kids. I can't let either of them die, even though I only think they have less than 10% chance of surviving, even with the money I put in it. And he took his last 90 million and put 45 million in each of the two companies, leaving him literally with nothing. He resorted to sleeping on his friend's couch for quite a while. Didn't even have an apartment. And so, at least for him, he would look at something, give everything up to start over on something new.
Right. Well, and what Bezos has done is he's just added new things to what they do. And so in essence, he is starting something new every time, or, in many cases he's acquiring things like that. But it's kind of, I'm just going to keep adding and changing and shifting and, going from there. And so, I think that's the interesting thing is we're not one and done. It's,
why it's that way with Bezos?
Why?
I'll tell you why. So glad we're here together.
Yes.
That way with Bezos is they have a policy in their company that supervisors are not allowed to say no to suggestions from people below them. If they're going to say no, they have to write a paper on why no.
Right.
So it's much easier to say yes than to say no.
We can at least start it. And
in fact, AWS, which is probably their largest revenue producer now, was something that should never have happened within Amazon. Amazon wasn't that kind of a company.
Yeah, it was kind of like, how on earth are they going to be that, the server people?
Right. But they are, and they're doing really, really well at it. It's very, very profitable. And it would have never happened if they didn't have that policy. Because up the food chain, nobody could figure out why to say no to.
Right. Well, and I think that's one of the things about an entrepreneur is they're always looking for that next thing, whether it's somebody like Bezos who folds it into Amazon or somebody like you who just starts a totally new company. You're always just looking for what's next.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that's the underlying mentality of a true entrepreneur, because this journey is full of failures. That's part of the name of the game. in fact, I was just watching the CEO of NVIDIA yesterday, and he was talking about how he likes to introduce pain into his organization, and he's basically said that when you're introducing something new and something painful and something uncomfortable, that's where the best things happen.
Right.
And the real
If it's
entrepreneur,
easy,
yeah, yeah, a true entrepreneur is not going to run away from pain. They're masochistically going to embrace it because they know that through that pain is the journey towards your next success.
Right. And it does though take a special mindset, because there are people, and God bless them, we need them, that love going in to an office or being that employee. They don't want to be the think outside the box. I worked with years ago, I worked in an agency, marketing agency, and you didn't know from 10 minutes to the next what you were doing. I thought that was the greatest thing in the world, right? Because it was like, oh, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. There was a young lady who worked there that was horrific to her. She wanted to know what she was going to be doing at 3:03 p.m. And she lasted for a while. She tried to make it work. And then she went to work for somebody where she was the employee, and she was told at 3:03 p.m. you will be doing X. And for her, that was absolutely fabulous. She didn't have that mindset of, I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing that. What's next? It was just tell me what I need to do. Now in her personal life, she was very different. And I always thought that was very interesting. But yeah, she loved being that employee that was told, you go in and you do this.
Yeah. And by the way, too, you people out there that are that way, we need you.
Oh, yeah. The world would stop if we didn't have them.
As an entrepreneur, I need somebody to grab me by the tail and point me in the right direction,
right,
every now and then, because I'm otherwise, there's a squirrel.
I'm definitely squirrel. Yeah,
exactly. So we need you guys. Don't go anywhere.
Right. But you're right. Companies need both. They need the people who are going to keep us on track, who are going to say, here's what we're doing today, tomorrow, the next day. And then they do need the people saying, well, yeah, but what if?
Yeah.
And sometimes the yeah, but what ifs need to be shut down. But in many cases, they are the people who come up with the absolute best ideas, but they need that support system to make those ideas happen.
Yeah, exactly. I think that as organizations grow, need that even more and more. When we start out on our entrepreneurial journeys, we're the proverbial one-armed paper and trying to do everything. And a lot of times, actually, people, because we have 400 companies under our umbrella, and a lot of times people will talk to me about, entrepreneurship and leadership and how similar they are, but they're complete opposites. As an entrepreneur, you're doing everything you need to do, and as an entrepreneur, you're not going to create a great company if you can't.
You might be a really bad leader.
Yeah, you got to evolve into a really good leader, and if you don't do that, your company's not going to evolve and grow, because you can't do all that stuff on your.
Right. Yeah, you're going squirrel.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And that is, I think, why we have people who are serial entrepreneurs. They don't want to be the boss. You mentioned it before. I think that is so true. They know they're not cut out to do that. They don't want to do hiring, firing, invoicing, sales, any of that. They want to be the one at the front line creating something new.
Yeah. And that's for every actor on stage, there's 20 people behind the stage making it all happen. And that's, if you think of the CEO, founder, that actor, it's not going to be a very good play if you don't have the support system around it.
Right. Even the ones that seem like one-man acts. It was funny. We were talking earlier today during a mastermind I was on about George Carlin and Robin Williams. Right. I mean, and they were just out there by themselves. They didn't have an orchestra. They didn't, they just went and they performed. But they had business managers, they had people, lawyers that reviewed their contracts, they had probably personal chefs and all of those various things. So they had those support systems. There's not anybody that goes it alone, or they're what we were talking about before, they took their their little toys and went to and lived on an island by themselves.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'd like to go back to
Okay,
something
perfect.
that we had talked about, because I've changed my opinion on this.
Okay.
Before, people used to ask me, "Hey, if somebody who's not really cut out for entrepreneurship and the risk and everything, is there any way to convert them into
Right.
entrepreneur?" I say no.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is, when you dig deep under the
Mm-hmm.
surface, a lot of people don't want to go there because they're fearful of
Right.
the rejection, they're
Mm-hmm.
fearful of the failure.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a subset of people that don't consider themselves entrepreneurial,
Mm-hmm.
that if we can peel away and get
Mm-hmm.
into the, hey, don't be afraid of this
Right.
because we're all going through this. This is
Mm-hmm.
part of the process. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it feels painful when it happens,
Mm-hmm.
but that's part of your journey.
Mm-hmm.
There's a subset of those
Mm-hmm.
people I know that can be coached
Right.
into becoming
Mm-hmm.
great entrepreneurs
Mm-hmm.
when they can shed that
Mm-hmm.
fear from their body, shed that
Mm-hmm.
insecurity, shed that imposter
Mm-hmm.
syndrome that we all have, that I
Mm-hmm.
still have
Mm-hmm.
after raising $2 billion, having a couple of companies go
Mm-hmm.
public, have this company with 100,000 applications to
Mm-hmm.
work with us. I still wake up with imposter syndrome at
Mm-hmm.
3 a.m. Here and there, sweating, wondering what the
Mm-hmm.
heck I'm doing with my life. So if I can teach you guys out there to
Mm-hmm.
embrace those things, there'll be a whole
Right.
lot of you becoming
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs.
Right. And it is scary, to even if we're just, we talk on the program a lot about, okay, here's how to start a business. You need to, get a tax ID. You need to register with your state. You need to do this. You need to do that. And somebody's thinking, yeah, but I just want to paint pretty flowers. Right, whatever it is that is their thing that gets them all juiced up. So then they don't, right, because they're thinking, oh my god, I remember when I applied for my business license, and I do just have one business license, everything else is folded into it. But when I started Wise Women Communications, Al Gore hadn't invented the internet yet. So I lived in Colorado. I had to trot myself down to the Secretary of State's office. And and I filled out their paperwork. It was a sole proprietorship, so I didn't have to have bylaws and all sorts of things like that. And I handed them my check for 30, 60, whatever dollars. I mean, it was not an awful lot. And they literally handed me back the probably 1.5 by 3 inch receipt thing from the cash register. And that was how I started my business. And, and I had wanted trumpets and confetti and, all of those things. And of course, that didn't happen. But then, of course, my next thought was, now what the heck do I do? And I think that is where so many people just stop. They are afraid. They don't know what to do. What do I call it? All of those various things. And so, what do you tell somebody when they come to you and say, I have this great idea? Now what?
Well, I wouldn't tell them to run down and grab the business license first.
Right. Mm-hmm.
The first thing I would tell them to do is, let's find out if you really do have a
Mm-hmm.
great idea.
Right.
The reality is, a lot of people have great ideas and they never go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The second reality is, nobody's going to steal your great idea. Don't worry
Mm-hmm.
about it. We're all too busy. We all have
Mm-hmm.
our things going on,
Mm-hmm.
and taking a great idea and turning it into a
Mm-hmm.
business is a big, painful
Mm-hmm.
milestone. But the most important thing I would tell anybody with a great idea is, let's find out. Do your research,
Mm-hmm.
do your studies, do your market size, your market opportunity, your competitive
Mm-hmm.
landscape. What are the weaknesses in your
Mm-hmm.
competitors? What does that audience
Mm-hmm.
really want? Why are you going to deliver it?
Right.
What do you have that's
Mm-hmm.
differentiated from the others that are
Mm-hmm.
out there in the industry? And if you tell me you have no competitors, I'm going to tell you to fold up shop and
Right.
go.
Because everybody has competitors.
Right. Or it's possible that you don't, but that means you invented something that nobody wants.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason you're going to have
Right.
no competitors is if there's no
Mm-hmm.
demand.
Yeah.
Otherwise, if there is a demand,
Mm-hmm.
it gets served even
Mm-hmm.
inadequately,
Mm-hmm.
but it gets served.
Mm-hmm. Right. And so then what? What if okay, this could work. This is something that I can do. So then what are the next steps?
Well, after you figured out what you want to do, you figured
Mm-hmm.
out it's a great business opportunity, you
Mm-hmm.
figured out you have a differentiated way to get
Mm-hmm.
in there, you have one or two things one of two things to do
Mm-hmm.
next. Either mortgage everything, sell your sailboat,
Mm-hmm.
sell one of the least important kid in your
Yeah.
family,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is you have to do to get the capital you need to go
Mm-hmm.
forward, or go out and start thinking about pitching
Mm-hmm.
to get the dollars you
Right.
need. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
every opportunity has a cost
Mm-hmm.
associated with it. And if you're starting your own business, then you want to do a nationwide launch
Mm-hmm.
of a business, whether it's e-commerce or
Mm-hmm.
an app or something in the technology space. It's going to be $500,000 to $1 million to get to a point where you're
Mm-hmm.
actually live and getting
Mm-hmm.
some traction. And that's doing it on the cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to need capital, and you
Mm-hmm.
need to start thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
For every founder, I tell nowadays, you have to be a financial
Mm-hmm.
CEO. That's the name of the game now.
Right.
You have a chance for extreme growth if you
Mm-hmm.
do things right, but extreme growth doesn't happen with cash flow,
Mm-hmm.
because if you're doubling every month, last month's receipts are going to pay for
Mm-hmm.
this month's
Mm-hmm.
expenses. They're not going to match up,
Mm-hmm.
and so you will thwart
Mm-hmm.
your growth
Mm-hmm.
opportunity. So be thinking about capital all the time. How am I going to be
Mm-hmm.
educated in the process? How do I learn to speak the language investors
Mm-hmm.
want to hear? How do
Right.
I figure out what I really need? How to
Mm-hmm.
use it wisely? How to marshal my
Mm-hmm.
resources in a succinct and persuasive way so I
Mm-hmm.
can move from
Mm-hmm.
A to B on my way to Z.
Right. Right. And that's what fascinates me about your company, IdeaPros, because it does a combination of all of this. You do investing, you do training, you do all sorts of things. And, there are other companies out there that you can do the same thing. But tell us, I looked at this and I went, wow, this is kind of a one-stop shop, which is, that's a good thing. But, so somebody says, and I don't know why this keeps popping into my brain. Maybe it's just showing my age. I'm going to do this thing called a pet rock, right? Remember those were when
Yeah.
people paid for rocks?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So what if they came to you and said, we're going to do a pet rock? We know there is demand for it. Now what? And say they were, I mean, there really was demand. That was the squirreliest thing about the whole pet rock craze. But, it obviously didn't last. But,
Yeah.
what if if somebody comes to you and says, okay, now what? We know we've got a great idea. We know there's a market for it, but we don't want to sell kid number two and mortgage our house.
Yeah. So historically, with my flagship product at IdeaPros, you were all in and came to us as a partner,
Mm-hmm.
which would cost you an average of about $100,000. You'd have to
Okay.
come up with and give us 30% of the company we're going to form
Mm-hmm.
together. And with that, we would do everything. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we would train you as an entrepreneur. We would do all the building, the
Mm-hmm.
research, the
Mm-hmm.
app development, engineering, if it was a physical product, nationwide launch, go to market strat, literally everything you would do on
Mm-hmm.
your own. So even though it costs a lot of money, it's
Mm-hmm.
about 25% of what it would cost you
Mm-hmm.
to do on your own.
Right.
But now I spent the last year not taking any new partners
Mm-hmm.
because I'm thinking, this is stupid. I have 100,000 applications, a hundred
Mm-hmm.
thousand people that said they wanted to pay me, give me a piece of their company,
Mm-hmm.
and I can only take 400 folks
Mm-hmm.
because of the heavy lifting involved.
Right. Yeah. You guys only have so much brain power. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now we've compartmentalized things.
Mm-hmm.
So people can come to us now and say,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, I got a great idea, but make sure it's awesome."
Mm-hmm.
And we can generate 70-page reports and go to market strategies and help people create
Mm-hmm.
pitch decks. We can help people raise capital. I'm bringing 8 to 10 companies every month up to Silicon Valley,
Mm-hmm.
presenting to dozens of venture capital
Mm-hmm.
firms. We can help you with your marketing, your strategy, like every piece that
Mm-hmm.
companies need or that
Mm-hmm.
individuals need. But I think the difference between our approach and all the other kind of not one-stop shop
Mm-hmm.
solutions is people will give you stuff
Mm-hmm.
instead of telling you what you need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
You can go right now. a lot of people, in fact, that was one of my ads. People would type in, "Where can I get my app built?" And our ads would say, "You're about to make the biggest mistake of your life." And the reality is, you don't need to build an app. You need co-founders. You need people with
Right.
experience.
Yeah, you're jumping way ahead.
Yeah, yeah. Your app is just a delivery
Mhm.
vessel to take your very valuable stuff and give it to the people who really, really need it. The app is just the highway to get there, right? And so being able to train people and work with them hand and foot and whatever that expression is, work with them together jointly and have a common goal because we're minority owners. Nobody's really approaching it that way. You can have a million app companies out there that'll build whatever it is that you want. You
Oh
can
yeah,
spend
we get emails from them every
yeah,
day.
yeah. You go spend a couple $100,000 if you're not careful, and at the end, you don't have anything. You don't have a go-to-market strategy. You don't have a differentiated product. So we're the only company I'm aware of that basically says, "Okay, we'll be your co-founder. We're going to treat this like it's our own baby. Let's bring it to college together."
I love it. Now, what about, I mean, you're talking about a fairly substantial business. What about the small business owners? The people who are like, I love landscaping. I want to do landscaping for a living. And you've got great resources for them, but the process is still the same in many cases. It's just fewer numbers.
Yeah. So people that want to have a lifestyle business, that's awesome. And I would say if you want to have a lifestyle business, make sure it's something you really love. If you can align your
Right.
purpose, your passion with things that are going to give you money, man, you can have a great life. And you don't have to be the next gazillionaire to do it. But what you do need to do if you want to be really kick-ass, hopefully I can say that in your field, let's take landscaping. Um, be different. Find out what all the different landscaping companies are doing and find a different way to
Right.
approach it. Whether it's free services to do your kind of landscape layout, whether it's lifelong replacement, whether you work on, here's something no landscape company does that I'm aware of, have this kind of recurring revenue model, right? Where every month we will come out, we'll look at all your plants and trees and we'll service them and make sure everything's right. It's going to cost you X number of dollars a
Right.
month to make sure your plants are healthy and growing. And oh, by the way, when I go there, it's an opportunity for me to say, well, these plants are gotten this big. Should
Right.
move them over here.
Have
Let's
you thought about a rock
replace
garden there in the corner?
exactly. So do interactive things that are different
Mhm.
from other landscaping companies, right? Or if you're a dentist, how about this? $99 a month, and I'm going to guarantee you that you never have a cavity. You
Ooh.
get, you get everybody hates going to the dentist. Everybody hates pain. If I had
Right.
a way to avoid the pain part of it by being checked on repeatedly, you're going to come to me once a quarter.
Right.
It's $99 a month. We're going to check you out. The very beginning of anything that we see that's suspicious, we're going to handle right away before it becomes anything
Right.
bad. You're not going to have the drills. You're not going to have the needles. You're not going to have any of that stuff. Who's not going to sign up for that?
Right.
Right. So you differentiate yourself, whatever business you're in, and you can go a long way.
Right. Yeah. In the marketing world, we call that your unique selling proposition, right? Your USP. Because I don't even remember the last time, and obviously it happens where there is something brand new, that really is, oh my gosh, we've never had this before. You're doing a variation of something.
Yeah.
And so how do you set yourself apart? And of course the problem comes in the fact that they're like, well, that one or that friend or that whoever is very profitable, so I'll just do the same thing.
Yeah. So, by the way, one of those events that you're talking about that you can't remember, ChatGPT.
This is true.
That one was like, what the?
Oh, I
So,
know. And now,
and
now
now,
everybody's copying it.
yeah, everybody's trying to figure it out. It's only in its infancy, but I would definitely say that there are opportunities for differentiating yourself. The two main things that prevent you from doing it. Number one, this kind of, I want to copy what others successful in the industry have done. And And the second thing to prevent you is actually what you would think would be a benefit is your knowledge. The more intimate knowledge you have of a subject matter, the harder it is to move you out of that knowledge base, right? So that's why for me, I can look at a dentist, and I'm not a dentist, and I can say, well, what are the pain points? Pain.
Pain.
The pain, and the other point is needles. So I can try to eliminate those because I'm not a dentist. But as a dentist, I'm like, how do I take care of cavities more effectively and things? I can't think way outside the box.
Right.
And I think that's what you need to do. If you're going to go into anything, don't worry about the successful companies. You can study them a little bit, but look at how everybody's doing everything. Find the inefficiencies in the way they do it and make those your selling points because there's an opportunity in almost every single thing. To differentiate yourself.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're always looking at whatever it is and saying, I could do that better or at least differently. And it's interesting because, sometimes it really could work and then other times not. I mean, one of the things that I'm thinking about is the self-serve checkout lines, right? Now, there was clearly a reason for that during COVID. Except you were still touching everything and, nobody was 6 feet apart. So, it just meant they had fewer employees. Well, then, of course, they had a lot more on purpose and accidental theft. Oops, I didn't really scan that thing or let's stick that in the bag type of things. And then you still had to have the employees because I broke it and, all of those. And now they're figuring out we don't, those things we need to at least have both. But initially it was, somebody looking at it and going, do we really need all those checkers? And, that answer was yes, but they tried it without it. And I think that is one of the things that is important is sometimes things don't work. And we learn from them. So maybe what the companies have learned is, okay, we do self-checkout for 10 items and less. And, because that's pretty easy to monitor with somebody standing there going, okay, everything's scanned and all of those things.
Yeah.
But then we're going to have checkers for everything else. But yeah, learning from our failures, I think is one of the best things that business owners can do and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and in fact, it's the only way you're going to learn. If you're successful in what you're doing, it could very well be that half of that success is luck, accidental, into it. You may not know the real reason you're successful. I had a company called Path One, and we became really successful. And me and my engineers and some marketing folks sat down and we wrote on a whiteboard the top 10 reasons that our B2B customers are using our product. Top 10. And then we did a survey of our customers, and 70% of them gave us answers that were not in that top 10 at all. And here we were successful, but we didn't learn shit from our success because all of our assumptions were wrong. Instead, when things didn't work, we had to fix them. And that's when we really learned about what we had and what we needed to do to make it better.
Right. And we hate the thought of failure, but that is what makes us better and stronger. And hopefully it's not one that, costs us everything and does all of those things. But, it is the other thing that is wise is knowing when to say, okay, enough. We've gone down that road. It is not working. We need to come back and do something different. But then there's also the right place, right time type of things. We're on one of those right now. Zoom was just kind of there. Microsoft had Skype, and I don't remember if they had transitioned to Teams yet, or they were kind of in that process.
And Cisco had that stuff.
Yeah, but nobody really had anything. And then COVID, right? And Zoom said, any student, any educator can use this for free. And everybody went, well, if my kids are using it, I guess maybe I should too. And, I think that was one of the biggest reasons why Zoom really took off was they offered it for free to every school that all of a sudden had to do something. And we all did kind of go, well, if my kids are using it, then maybe I should be using it too.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't normally give investment advice, but when it seemed like we were going to be a while in this COVID thing, I recommended Zoom, Amazon, Apple,
Right.
Netflix, and
Instacart, all of those. Yeah.
they all skyrocketed.
Right.
Yeah, opportunistic things can happen
Right.
when things go
Well,
bad.
and then of course the thing is then to get out and go on to the next thing. Because people have decided, hey, I'm going to go back to the store. I'm going to do all of those. I did hear something very interesting the other day, though. They said that for most restaurants, more than half of their business is still takeout. And that really surprised me. And because they were saying that they were so looking forward to Mother's Day because people would go back in. But yeah, but then I think about it and I'm like, oh, I love it. I don't have to get dressed. I don't have to, and I can get the really good food that I love from Chili's or whatever, and just have it delivered. So much easier than going out or doing it myself.
Yeah, I have mixed emotions about that. For especially, I was born and raised in Italy, and
Oh yeah. So meals are a thing.
yeah, a meal's not about
Mhm.
eating. I mean, eating is a subset of a meal. To
Mhm.
go in a restaurant, to be around other people,
Right. And it's
to
hours
yeah,
long, right?
yeah, yeah. So it's the whole experiential
Mhm.
element of it
Mhm.
that you don't have. And by the way, I think that as an aside, that maybe we'll
Mhm.
have to cut out of the show. We're kind of on a downturn as far as our capabilities as humans to
Mhm.
interact with other human beings,
Mhm. Right.
because everything is so
Mhm.
digital.
Mhm.
Our world exists in a little 5-inch screen
Mhm.
for most of the
Mhm.
day.
Right.
And we need to get out there. Get out there,
Mhm.
people. Go
Right.
do stuff.
Yeah. I've said this several times on the program. I have not gone to an in-person networking event since before COVID. My last one would have been February of 2020.
Wow.
Right? It's been that long ago.
Yep.
And and now I still belong. I belong to 3 business associations here in Atlanta because it's so big. They have these smaller kind of subset things. And
Right.
I firmly believe in supporting our local business communities under $100 a year. So,
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
big deal. But I don't want to get dressed. I don't want to have to put shoes on. I don't want to do all of those things. And more importantly, I looked at it and I went, how much business did I lose when I wasn't attending? And for me, I didn't lose business. Now I miss seeing the people, and all of those things. But it was so interesting because one of my guests several weeks ago was a mental health expert, and she was talking about exactly what you were saying. She told me, she said, I don't care if you get anything out of it or not. You need to go. You need to go be social. And, clearly I am a social creature. And she said, you've got to get back there and do that. And so I've been looking every day when I get their stuff. I'm like, the program doesn't look interesting. But maybe that's the thing is we need to get back into how are we going to draw people back to these things?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I can tell you there are some real opportunities out
mhm,
there if you let your guard down and
right.
you really
Hmm.
mingle when you go to
Hmm.
these type of
Hmm.
places. For example, I do one thing now that now it's been close. Well, it started at the very beginning of the
Hmm.
year, but up in Silicon Valley, close to once a month, there is an angel group that gets together,
Hmm.
about 250
Hmm.
startups, 50 venture capital
Hmm.
firms, pre-seed and seed level
Hmm.
venture seed firms, a whole bunch of angels all get together for
Hmm.
about 5 or 6 hours,
Hmm.
and they present and they
Hmm.
interact. And it's become something that's been amazing for me.
Hmm.
I've gotten a lot of inquiries from there every time I
Hmm.
go up there because I go up and I'll speak to that
Hmm.
entire audience, and more people want to
Hmm.
learn about IdeaPros and
Hmm.
what we do and how we can
Right.
help them. And we're getting companies further up the food
Hmm.
chain that are hearing us and
Hmm.
realizing that, wow, there's things these guys
Hmm.
can do for me all along.
Hmm.
So I as well as your mental health expert,
Hmm.
would encourage you and everybody to get
Right.
out there and go make some
Hmm.
connections.
Well, and as you were saying, figure out where you need to go. The local business association might not be it.
Yeah,
The industry meeting of
Exactly.
something might be where I need to go. And those exist online, but there is something about face to face. I mean, there's just a little bit different connection that you make with people when we're face to face in person than
Yep.
when we're on Zoom
Yep.
or whatever the platform is.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. When I've had people that I've had multiple Zoom
Mm-hmm.
calls with, and then I'll meet them a year later, and they
Mm-hmm.
go, "Oh, that's what you look like," or "Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
realize you were that tall," or
Mm-hmm.
"Oh,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you're even more handsome in person."
Of
No, no,
course.
nobody's said that, but one day, please, somebody say that.
Yes, yes, yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
And but I think especially for a new business owner, a lot of times getting out and doing that networking is the only way that they're going to build their business. And so but they have to do it strategically.
yeah. One of I have two daughters I raised on my own. They're my greatest accomplishment, despite the 10 different companies I started and 400 corporate
Mm-hmm.
stepchildren I have in my companies. Um,
The real
and
kids should be. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and one of them is she's got such great ideas,
Mm-hmm.
and she can really position herself in any
Mm-hmm.
type of corporate
Mm-hmm.
thing she wants to do really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
But she's like a lot of us, turns on the light and expects the business to come
Mm-hmm.
in, you
Right.
know, no matter how well you can
Mm-hmm.
promote yourself, position yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you need to be able to 24/7 be
Mm-hmm.
dragging people through your door,
Mm-hmm.
get them in and get them to be part of your business,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that you have to do. And that's a lost art that
Mm-hmm.
even going to a convention or a conference or
Mm-hmm.
something, people wander around, take a couple of business cards and call it a day. Try to get meetings, meet
Mm-hmm.
people
Right.
offline.
Mm-hmm.
Say, what are you doing? Let's go have a
Mm-hmm.
beer at the end of this, have a
Mm-hmm.
coffee before it starts. The interaction
Mm-hmm.
that's required to have a successful business is something that we're more and more afraid to do,
Mm-hmm.
but it's absolute requirement.
Right. Right.
Um, can I tell you a story about David Rockefeller?
Of course.
Okay, I'm telling you this story because one of our companies is a company called Digidex, which
Mm-hmm.
is a digital Rolodex,
Mm-hmm.
if you will.
Mm-hmm.
David Rockefeller attributed his success, well, he should attribute it to his father,
Yeah,
but
I know he did kind of have a silver spoon.
yeah, that helped.
Mm-hmm.
But he massively grew what he had.
Mm-hmm.
And he had reams and reams and reams of notebooks. In fact, a whole wall
Mm-hmm.
full of all these notebooks. And
Mm-hmm.
the only thing that was in these notebooks were the people that he'd met.
Mm-hmm.
Every time he'd have a meeting with somebody, when he got back to the office, he would
Mm-hmm.
sit with his secretary and write down, "This is Joe. I met him here. His wife is Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
She's going on a trip to Italy this
Mm-hmm.
summer. He's got two kids.
Mm-hmm.
One's going to Brown University. This is what I think about him."
Mm-hmm.
And 6 months later, he'd meet Joe again,
Mm-hmm.
and
And he'd
he'd
say,
say,
"How was?"
"Yeah, how was that
Mm-hmm.
trip to Italy for
Mm-hmm.
your wife? Is your kid still in Brown?
Mm-hmm.
What is she majoring
Mm-hmm.
again?" So he built
Mm-hmm.
relationships, and the building of
Mm-hmm.
relationship is what he attributes
Right.
his financial
Mm-hmm.
wealth to,
Mm-hmm.
the growing of his
Mm-hmm.
wealth. And so whatever business you have,
Mm-hmm.
it is about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
It is about the customer
Mm-hmm.
journey, the experience,
Mm-hmm.
your unique selling proposition
Mm-hmm.
that you pointed out. But it's the engagement
Mm-hmm.
people buy. So
Right.
whatever business that you're going into, whatever it is that you want to
Mm-hmm.
do, lifestyle or
Mm-hmm.
be the next Elon Musk, um, sell the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Find what people really getting
Mm-hmm.
from you and
Mm-hmm.
lay that out, not
Mm-hmm.
the product that you're selling.
Mm-hmm.
Product that you're selling is meaningless compared
Right.
to the
Mm-hmm.
experience that you can give
Mm-hmm.
people.
Yeah, because as we said, there's no unique product.
Right.
I can get my coffee from wherever, but I like that person who makes the coffee.
Exactly. The experience.
And yeah, we forget all of that.
Yeah.
And that sometimes is hard,
Yeah.
especially now, introverts, it doesn't matter any of that. I mean, but sometimes it's really hard to be that face of whatever it is, but you are the face of whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. And I have Richmond is one of my friends. He
Mm-hmm.
was one of the first people at Zappos.
Okay.
which became the largest online shoe company in the world, acquired by Amazon. They used to be thrilled when there was a disgruntled customer. And they were thrilled because they were going to white glove that
Right.
person. What do you need? A different size, a different color. These things only lasted 6 months. They should have been a year. We'll send you a new pair. They knew, and their statistics told them that when you convert somebody who's unhappy, the lifetime value of that customer is 2.5 times greater
Oh,
than
yeah.
the
Oh,
lifetime
yeah.
value of somebody who
Yep.
was happy the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that happen yesterday. Friend of mine on Facebook. Now he is a social media marketing expert. And so he did this, he thought about this before he did this. And he did say, I thought about this before posting. He and his wife were divorced. And on behalf of his kids, he bought the ex-wife flowers. He used a company he hadn't dealt with before. And what he got was not what he was happy with. And he posted the picture of, here's what it showed on the website, here's what I got, yada yada yada. He of course tagged the company in it, but he said, we'll see what happens, but as of right now, I will never do business with them again. Couple hours, look like maybe at the most, they responded, and they responded publicly. They didn't contact him privately, which they could have done and said, hey, yeah, which was smart, right? You want to respond public. And they said, we are so sorry. What can we do to fix this? Please contact us privately. We will make sure that you get your money back. We'll make sure that the ex-wife gets, fanciest bouquet of flowers in the world. But but yeah, they said, what can we do to fix this? And then of course we all read that. We went, okay. And I tell my clients that anytime somebody complains, we never, ever, ever, ever ignore it, because the worst thing is it could grow, somebody else complains, right? But we at least need to go in. And so many times people just want to hear, I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. But yeah, it's, how can we fix this? How can we make it better? And my thought after reading that guy's post yesterday was, I want to check that company out. And because it was a smaller online floral retailer. I mean, all of those things. And his point was, it wouldn't have mattered, except he was doing it on behalf of his kids. And so they were disappointed that they gave mom bad flowers. They were young enough that he still needed to do that. But yeah, it was, and I think that's, that kind of comes back to the failure discussion we were having before. We have to admit when we screwed up, and we have to at least try to fix it. Sometimes you can't. But we at least have to try to make the effort.
Yeah, look, the reality is, if you have a customer that's complaining, it's a customer that wants to stay with you and have a solution. The
right, because if they didn't complain, they didn't care.
Yeah, or the worst customer you can have is somebody who gets your stuff, hates it, and doesn't call you, doesn't.
Right.
They're done with you. So that's the customer you paid for in your marketing efforts, you nurtured, and they left, and you have no way to fix it.
Right.
So if you have a complaining customer, that's a customer that's basically saying, hey, nobody's perfect. We understand that. Trying to make it right for us. And if you can do that, to your point, you went out and checked that florist out. People do that. When people see genuine responses, we're going to make it better. What do we need to do? Let's work together. People see that. They want to work with you, even though that one experience was not a good one.
Right. And it's hard when you're the entrepreneur, you're the business owner, and somebody criticizes your product, right? Because they're basically saying your baby is ugly, and so you don't want to hear it, but at the same point, we have to fix it. And it's, I've actually had people who have told me, I haven't gone into business because what if somebody complains? And I'm like, they're going to complain. It means they care. But they also, they would have not been good entrepreneurs, because that criticism, they would have not seen it as a way for them to grow.
Exactly. And I think that, man, I would love to live in the world that those people live in, that nobody complains and everything fine.
And you know, they're probably the ones who complain the most.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm,
Exactly.
mhm.
Yeah.
Right, right. So, oh my gosh, Frederick, we've only got about 10 minutes left. I want to go back to the beginning. How do we start? If somebody is thinking, I can do this, and how do they even start? We've talked about research, we've talked about all those things, but what's going to make somebody actually get out there and say, I can do a pet rock?
Well, I'm not sure about that example, but
It worked. Someday
yeah,
I'm going to have to look up and see how many millions it made, because it made an awful lot of money.
I think they only made about 8 million, if I
Mhm,
remember.
mhm,
I'm they call me the Hugel, the human
mhm,
Google. So I
mhm,
may be completely wrong. Please let us know if I am, because I don't mind criticism.
mhm,
Um, the reality is, all of us wake up once or twice or
mhm,
10 times or 100 times in
mhm,
the middle of the night with some great idea.
mhm,
Uh, I think the first steps in turning something into action is, how well does that align with
mhm,
your skill set, your
mhm,
passion, your purpose,
mhm,
your even just the way you want to carry
mhm,
about your day. How well does that idea align with those
mhm,
things? And if it does, then we can start
mhm,
moving towards the next steps of
mhm,
molding that into actionable
mhm.
items. If it doesn't, like, well, I've got to figure out a way to get to Mars. I think I could beat Elon Musk.
I can get to Mars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Eh,
You wake up and then you realize, yeah, you know what?
not really realistic.
This is not for me. But if you find something that really is for you,
Mhm,
the first thing you need to do is convince yourself that you're going to spend the rest of your life doing this.
mhm,
There is no success.
mhm,
Not everybody. People ask me, when did you become successful?
mhm.
Never.
Right.
Because
It's an ongoing goal.
yeah, it's a journey. And
Mhm,
Elon lost
mhm,
everything, lost
mhm,
everything. The founders of Airbnb,
mhm,
paying for everything with they had a book full of credit cards. They
mhm,
were, because nobody believed that
mhm,
anybody would allow strangers to live with them.
mhm,
The success is fleeting.
mhm,
So gear up for this lifelong journey
mhm,
that you're going to have a lot of aggravation, a lot
mhm,
of upset, a lot of failures,
mhm,
a lot of pivots, betrayal sometime when people come in
mhm,
and work with you and then leave and start their own
mhm,
business, same as yours.
mhm,
There are all sorts of opportunity
mhm,
for bad things,
mhm,
but there are also opportunities for amazing things.
mhm,
So first step, do I have the
mhm,
wherewithal emotionally
mhm,
to be able to pull this off?
mhm,
And if that answer is yes, then you can start
mhm,
doing steps that you need.
mhm,
Set up 3-year goals, 3-year
mhm,
plan, but then set the plan for this week.
mhm.
Like, because we're always looking at these 3-year, this is why we
Right.
start.
10
We're
years from now, I want to
Yeah,
be.
I got
Yeah.
all this. It's so
Mhm,
nebulous. It's so mind-boggling that we never take that next
mhm,
step. Figure out what you want to be in 3 years, and then
mhm,
figure out this little tiny
mhm,
steps you're going to take this week to
mhm,
begin that journey, and do that every
mhm,
week. Get further and further down the path.
mhm,
Build your blueprint for
mhm,
your future, and start going with
mhm,
one little mark at a time.
mhm. I love it. When I first started to, decide I was going to open my own business, I was talking with somebody, and I was working at a firm. We were lobbyists, kind of an interesting job to have. But I loved doing it. I thought it was the greatest thing in the world, but I also thought I want to go do something else. And so I had this idea, I had all this stuff, and I was talking with a business coach, and they told me probably the best advice that I ever needed. They said, you need to quit, because until you quit that other job, you're never going to make this new thing happen. Now, not everybody can do that, right? But it really was. She said, you jumped off that diving board and then you reached back up and you grabbed on, you know,
Exactly.
and she said, until you let go, you're not going to make your business a success. And sometimes that really is what it takes.
Yeah, it is. We give up that kind of 40-hour a
Mm-hmm,
week cushy job, nice
mm-hmm,
salary, benefits, and we run off into the wild blue yonder to work 100 hours a week with no benefit, no pay. That is hard to tell people to do. But I think the key element as to whether you should do it is what happens when you wake up in the morning. When you wake up, you rub the sleep out of your eyes and put your feet
down. Do you
down.
pull the covers back over, or do you get up?
Are you happy? Are you like, wow, this is what I'm doing? I mean, I've had people that were making $750,000 a year in salary that just left to do this thing because they woke up every day and they were miserable. That's not what they wanted to be doing. They were really good at it. That's not what they wanted to do. So how miserable do you want your life to be?
Right. I love it. Well, Frederick, for people who are going, okay, I'm ready, I can do it. How do they find you, and what are the services that you provide?
Oh, okay. All right. So Fred Cary at IdeaPros.com. And the very first thing for anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur that we do is we have a free membership. And with a free membership, we're sending you content every single week on the journey of entrepreneurship and different points of what you can do to be better in that journey. We also have several paid things. We also have free workshops 2-3 times a month. We have workshops on raising money and building your brand, all different things, completely free. And we also have opportunities for you to help you raise capital, to help you build a business. And you can just go to ideapros.com and you'll find out how to do all those things. If you have this incredible idea that you are just completely passionate about turning into this next huge business, you can even email me at fred@ideapros.com, and I'll be happy to talk to you and lead you to the right course if I can't help you. And finally, on Instagram, official Fred Cary, Cary, I have about 500,000 followers on there, trying to get to 1 million. So with all your listeners, hopefully we can get there.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. Well, this has been so much fun, and I've learned so much. I mean, I think that's one of the things people ask me, what do I get out of my program? I talk to cool people and I learn something every time. I mean, that really is what keeps me doing this. But, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Yeah, I do have a final thought. And I think my final thought is this: whatever it is you want to do in your life, however big, however little, make sure that what you're doing is something that's going to warm your heart, that's going to make you feel like your presence in this world is not accidental, that you're here for a reason, you're here for a purpose, and every single one of us are. We lose sight of that. And so if you can start finding that purpose, taking care of yourself, aligning your purpose and your goals with what you're trying to do for your business life and personal life, then you're going to have a much happier life than just sit there and ride the same stream that everybody goes down.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, I've been having so much fun talking with Frederick Cary of IdeaPros. I'm Deb Creer, and until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.